And it's 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Thanks for joining me live tonight for a screenplay read. Okay, let's get comfortable. Let's get our laptop. And it's me with the Chianti again. No liver or fava beans. Gary Vaynerchuk's like, yeah, should do like a wine live. I'm like, oh yeah, if I was Gary V. Plus the channel has a year's worth of, that is a hoodie tie. For a moment there, it looked like a priest's collar. What do they call that? The frock? Anywho, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V had said, oh, somebody should do like a wine live. And I was like, yeah, if we were you, Gary. I did on my channel an entire year of Wine Wednesdays where I sampled, tested, tasted, reviewed every $10 or under bottle of wine I could find. So with that note, we are reading A Quiet Place. Do you want to read along too? So I've got it right here. There is a link to Screenplayed. I'm saying Played on the channel under the community notes, and I'm pointing here as if you could see where you could click on community, and then there's a link and it'll take you to this page. Let me show you right there. See it? A Quiet Place, so you can read along too. Things to know. I'm so excited to read this. I've seen the film and I was very, very slow to get on the bandwagon to watch A Quiet Place because I just didn't want to watch a horror film. And I think it was just in the middle of the lockdowns and I was out of my playlist and things to watch. And I finally watched A Quiet Place and I absolutely love it. I am starting in the screenplay right here raw. Normally I've read the screenplay and watched the film and I know what scene I want to read. Nope, not tonight. We are starting at the very first page and let's just get right into it. So yes, I just want to be completely honest. Yes, I said 3-page Thursday. That's the whole idea behind 3-page Thursday is I love to support a fellow writer, a fellow filmmaker, somebody with a screenplay and a dream. And that's how this started, though it's always just me. And I haven't received a screenplay from anybody yet to read. So I figured I'm going to keep it up for a little while longer. And while we wait to read the next ingenue and their screenplay, we're just going to touch on some favorites. So if you'll scroll to the very title page, A Quiet Place, screenplay by Brian Woods and Scott Beck and John Krasinski, story by Brian Woods and Scott Beck. On your mark, get set. There's 85 pages. We're not going to read 85 pages. But here we go. Page 1. It's so exciting. Page 1, scene 1. Black. We hear very clearly the sound of light wind. Exterior town, Main Street, late afternoon. We come up on a street light. There is no illumination and no movement. We hold on it for a long moment when suddenly the street light bobs and then begins to sway. We slowly begin to rise up on the street light to reveal a small bird has landed on it. We continue to rise to reveal behind the bird. Wind blows through the gargantuan evergreens that seem to engulf the narrow main street of a small town in upstate New York. Shop windows and cars on either side covered in dust. The place seems frozen in time. There is no movement. In the very middle of the road, one can see sand. A bizarre incongruity. A long pathway about a shovel's width runs the full length of the street with offshoots into open doorways of some of the shops. We hold for a long moment. Scene 2. Interior general store, front, late afternoon. Slowly pushing through the doorway of a large general store, also covered in dust. To the left, a cash register with small shelves of nearly empty candy boxes below. To the right, a towering shelf full of bags of potato chips, nacho chips, and pretzels. None are missing. Scene 3. Interior general store aisles, late afternoon. We move slowly across the floor, down the middle of a general store. Amid the towering shelves of goods on either side, one may recognize a barely perceptible pattern of which shelves are bare and which are not. There is no movement, no sound. Suddenly, tiny feet jump into our moving frame. Then, as fast as they appeared, they're gone. We now move up the side of the store, looking down one aisle and the next. As we arrive at the next aisle, we catch a glimpse of a small dark figure, and then it's gone. We continue along the side of the store until we arrive at the last aisle. At the far end of the store, we see a counter with a window and shelves. Suddenly, a woman appears in the window. We go close on the woman as she scans the shelves, slowly lowering herself to the ground until behind her we see an 8-year-old boy sitting slumped against the wall. He is barefoot. On closer inspection, we see sweat on the boy's brow. His skin pale from fever. The woman's knee touches down on the ground next to the boy as she sees what she's been looking for, and she reaches out her hand. We go close on her hand as it reaches toward a shelf of orange prescription bottles. Her hand suddenly begins to shift certain bottles ever so slightly at a bizarrely slow pace. She does not make a sound. As she does this, we get our first glimpse of names. Names of drugs. Names of people. Her hand finally arrives at the very back of the shelf as she gently twists a bottle that reads amoxicillin. On the mother, as she inhales slowly, and then as if doing surgery, she slowly closes her hand around the bottle and gently begins to move it through the shelf toward her. Her hand once again moves incredibly slowly. Her now wider closed hand shifts even more bottles as it passes. Just as she gets to the end of the shelf, a bottle shifts with a rattle of pills. This is the first deliberate sound we've heard. The mother freezes. We rack focus to the boy on the ground, who now looks up with panic. The mother's eyes look all around the room, the way one does when they are waiting for something, listening for something. After a long moment, she pulls the bottle in her hand, the final few inches, and off the shelf. The mother draws a huge breath of relief. As she stands up, we reveal, just over the counter, 2 eyes are looking up at her. Interior aisle, late afternoon. A 10-year-old girl stands on her toes, barely able to see over the wooden counter to her mother. She smiles at her mother and gives her a thumbs up. And with that, she's off. We follow her as she runs lightly through the store. She is also barefoot. The girl turns down an aisle to reveal a small boy sitting on the floor, and he too is barefoot. As the girl approaches, we see in the thick dust on the floor, he has drawn a rocket ship. She sits with them. He silently puts his hand to his chest, palm to the side, crosses his first 2 fingers of his other hand with deliberate focus, and then slowly puts his 2 hands together. He then looks up at her and quickly shoots his crossed fingers into the air like a rocket. She beams with pride for a moment and then signs back to him. The daughter signing, "Very good job." and the boy signing as best he can. That's how we get away. The girl's smile falls ever so slightly, and then the boy suddenly taps her on the shoulder and scurries away. She's it. As the girl slowly gets up to follow him, we see for the first time a hearing aid, and the boy disappears around a corner. The next aisle, late afternoon, the girl comes around the tall shelf into the next aisle when suddenly her eyes go wide. What she sees is a boy standing on a small box, stretching to reach a toy on a high shelf, and she walks quickly to him when suddenly the toy falls. The girl instinctively slides to the ground and catches the toy just as about to hit the ground. And on her face, we can see she is terrified. She closes her eyes, taking a breath with relief. When she opens them in the foreground, we see the toy she is holding, a small toy space shuttle. Then in the distance, past the toy, we see a figure. She sits up to see a man standing outside the door of the general store, holding a large box with what looks like a quilt hanging out of it. A look of fear on his face softens as he mimes, wiping his brow with relief. She smiles and puts the toy back on a shelf and runs to him. Interior general store, front, late afternoon. The father gently puts the box on the ground and pulls back the pieces of the thick quilt to reveal that all the contents are actually wrapped in it. We're to page 4. We said 3 pages. I think it's delicious, so maybe we'll read one more page. Just one more page. He then reaches for a large hiking backpack and begins transferring the contents of the box into the bag. As he does, we see cans of food, a variety of prescription pills, bandages, and wrapped syringes. The girl arrives at his side and excitedly starts rummaging through the box as well. As she does, we see thick paintbrushes, bottles of glue, bottles of lighter fluid, and a stack of old newspapers. Then her face lights up. From the box, she pulls out a salvaged security camera with wires exposed, and the girl gives it a brief once-over and then removes 2 exposed circuit boards, very obviously only recently removed from whatever appliance they belong to. The girl scans the boards with a voracity, pointing out to the father particular areas of interest. And her father can't help but smile. Suddenly, the box of amoxicillin comes into frame and is placed on top, along with the 2 boxes of sugar. The father looks up at his wife. After a beat, she signs, "For my tea." "Fine, I have a sweet tooth," and she signs that. The father smiles and about to close the bag when a candy bar is placed on top, and the daughter, "Me too." The father looks up at her with fake incredulity. Suddenly, the sick son in his mother's arms weakly signs, "Me too." The whole family laughs silently as the daughter gently takes another candy bar from a box below the cash register. We can now see why the boxes are almost empty. The father looks back to his arriving 4-year-old son, expecting the same, but from behind his back, the young boy reveals the toy space shuttle. With a sweet empathy, the father reaches for the toy and shakes his head no. He turns the toy over and silently explains it has batteries. This toy can make noise. Ah! It's good. It's good. I've seen the film. It took me a long time to watch it. It is I love to read the screenplay and then watch the film, and I want to see what from the page makes it to the screen. And I can honestly say we read 4 pages and those 4 pages are on the screen. So on that happy note, 3-page Thursday, I'm just looking to support a writer, a filmmaker, maybe an actor who just wants to practice. So we'll be back again next Thursday. I don't know what we're going to read. Maybe we'll read one of your screenplays. We've already read one of mine. Or maybe we'll dive into Top Gun, A Few Good Men. There's Steel Magnolias. Oh, there's so many great screenplays to read. Dune. Oh, that's a lot. There's so many great ones to read. I'll be back next Thursday. It's 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So 6, 7, 8, 9 if you're Eastern Time. I'll be back reading. If you want your screenplay read, then send me a DM and we can do an NDA if you need, because that's just wisdom to protect your property. And then let's read it. Uh, I love Westerns. I love comedies. I like mystery thrillers. I'm not a huge horror fan, though this horror screenplay read really well. And I want to stop right there on that page where we discover the toy, because the thing about A Quiet Place is you can't make noise. Okay, on that note, I'm actually going to watch the film now. I encourage you to watch it too. It's available on Amazon Prime. And on that happy note, I will see you next Thursday. I hope you're writing, that you're reading screenplays, that you're developing your talent, your skill, especially if you work in content creation or just any of the arts. It's so important to create and then share what you're creating. So I'm Sherilyn. Thank you so much for joining me for 3 Page Thursday. I will see you next week. Bye.